Hi, I'm Leo. I usually spend my time over on the Brazilian version of Minute Earth, Minuto da Terra. But today I've come over here to tell you about my obsession with one particular animal from my homeland, the electric eel, or as we call it in Portuguese, poraquê, meaning the one who puts you to sleep. An electric eel can deliver a shock of as much as 860 volts, which is about 7 times higher than the voltage of the average US power outlet. That's enough to paralyze other animals or even kill them outright. Here in Brazil, we all know how dangerous these creatures are, but I could never figure out one thing. Why doesn't an electric eel shock hurt the eel itself? To get a handle on this electrifying question, you first have to understand how eels generate and use electric currents, and how these currents can cause damage in an animal's body. Being able to produce electric shocks sounds, well, shocking. But all animals are capable of producing electricity, even you. Every time an animal's nerve or muscle cell fires, it generates a nitty-bitty amount of electricity. These tiny jolts do all sorts of important jobs, from regulating an animal's heartbeat to make its body move. From these cells, which produce electricity as a means for accomplishing other jobs, eels evolved cells called electrocytes, whose only function is to generate electricity. 80% of an eel's body is made up of electrocytes, stacked up like batteries in a battery pack. An eel is actually a lot like a battery pack, but instead of having 9 volts, it has several hundred. And instead of passing through a wire, like the current generated by a battery, the current generated by an eel passes through the water the eel lives in, as well as the bodies of any animals that happen to be in that water. And that brings us to how the current affects other animals. All sorts of an animal's biological functions are regulated via its own internal electrical circuitry. The current emitted by an eel messes with those functions. For instance, by triggering involuntary muscle contractions that can paralyze the critter, allowing the eel to either eat it or escape from it. The eel's jolts are effective weapons. So how do they avoid shocking themselves and other eels around them? The answer is that they probably do shock themselves, but only a little bit. If you imagine the eel's electric organs as a battery, then there are 2 paths for current to travel from one side to the other, through the water or through the eel. Current will travel along both paths. But since the body of the eel has much higher electrical resistance than the water, only a little bit of the current will travel through it. Most of the current will go out into, well, the current. What's more, the eel has another trick for limiting damage to its internal electrical system. Most of an eel's vital organs are smooshed together at the front of its body, outside the direct path of the current, and surrounded by a thick layer of fat that provides extra insulation. So, for electric eels, staving off a shock to themselves seems to come down to creating the path of most resistance.
Okay, normally this is the part of the video where we run a sponsorship message, but instead of that, today I want to talk about Leo, who is not only obsessed with eels, but is also elated by science communication in general. For the last 10 years, he's not only been translating Minute Earth videos into Portuguese over at Minuto da Terra, he's also been finding multilingual nerds all over the world to help translate our videos into even more languages. It's not easy to translate complex science and bad puns, but Leo is the master, which is why it is so awesome we get to celebrate an amazing milestone with him. Minuto da Terra just hit 1 million subscribers. To show Leo some love, and maybe learn a new language in the process, consider subscribing to Minuto da Terra or one of our other foreign language channels. And to support Leo and the rest of the team, as we work to make fun science explainers available for everyone, join our Patreon at patreon.com/MinuteEarth, or just click below to send a one-time super thanks.